The oil pump is in, torqued up. The pulley bolt at the end there is not torqued up at all yet. There is not torqued up at all yet. There is not torqued up at all yet. Welcome back to episode 91. So this week's video, we're going to be going rogue on the engine. There's a few problems that I want to get down and just sort of resolve finally. There's a wiring one in there that I'm quite scared about. But it's, I have to do it. I have to just work out why this engine is not running or sounding quite right because I want to get it out on the road and start driving it. So without further ado, we're going to jump into it. Please, as ever, if you're enjoying these videos, click the subscribe button, help me grow the channel. Click the like button, propel my videos up in YouTube, and leave me comments. Tell me what I'm doing right and wrong. Tell me, just steer me basically, tell me anything. Anyway, let's just get in there and see how I get on this week. So, if you follow the channel, you'll know from the last video, when I fitted the cluster and actually turned the key and all the dials came up, the car was running like a pig. I very quickly tracked down what it was, and it turns out the 8 rubber hoses on the intake was split. Not all of them, probably 4 of them. So, today in the post, 8 new ones arrived. So today's job is to fit those on the car, and then we'll start up and check that it runs really good. There's nothing particularly tricky with this job. I just have to buzz these off and put the new ones on. I'm going to do one straight away just so we can check the size. Right, so what I'm trying to do here is, without remove everything, I'm trying to just take out the cold start injector. So if I can undo the cold start here, all of the intake runners are just detached now apart from that one. And I just need to undo the massive Jubilee clip underneath, and the whole plenum chamber should come up. That is what I'm hoping anyway. I'm pretty sure I'm okay with that. That's out already. Okay, so that's the cold start injector loose. So now it should be obviously just the big nut on the top there, and then the Jubilee clip underneath. Okay, so I think it should just lift out now. There we are. Pretty much. There we go, plenum chamber back out. That's with the plenum chamber removed. It's quite nice to see like this. I can sort of do a quick spot check everything's looking good, all of the vacuum hoses are still on. And of course I can get these off now and put the new ones back in. Right, brilliant. Okay, so what I want to do is just sort of inspect a little bit around inside there, inside the engine, and just make sure that there's nothing leaking, nothing seems too untoward. When I assembled all of the vacuum hoses, I was doing it with the plenum in place, and that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. But this actually provides quite a lot of access now. So what I just want to look through is make sure there's nothing leaking in here. Both air and fuel and coolant. But it looks pretty dry, I can't see anything. Right, so everything looks good inside there. All I need to do now is kind of match up a Jubilee clip and the hose. I've loosened all of these runners on this side, just enough I think. If you can see there, I get about, I don't know, maybe a centimetre with give. Hopefully that's enough to be able to squeeze the plenum in. What I need to do first though, is put the correct Jubilee clips on. So just going to slide them in there. They're very big, these ones, so they should be fine. There, we're back together. Ah, no, we're not. 2 more tubes. trying to track down this whining noise. So I've stripped off all the belts, run the engine, no change. So in this test I'm going to unplug the auxiliary air regulator, because that's one of the last things I've touched, and give it a run up to temperature and see whether the whining comes back. And that kind of is checking whether it's a vacuum leak, because as that auxiliary air regulator closes, there must be an increased pressure somewhere else in the system. So that's what I'm going to try now. Failing that, I've bought a stethoscope so I can actually listen in and hear if it's one of the bearings somewhere. But we'll first check this. So the whining noise is definitely still there. So I'm going to reattach the auxiliary air regulator. I'd expect the RPM to start coming down now as the regulator closes up and starts suffocating a little bit. So a few tests I tried there. I had the auxiliary air regulator unplugged. The whining noise is still there, so I plugged it back in. Same. I obviously have let it warm up. I've used the stethoscope to try and listen around all the moving parts without removing the cam covers, of course. That's still the next part. I can't really hear exactly where it's coming from. There is a lot of noise coming from the crank sort of side of things, but there's a lot of belts on there. So, and I've had all those belts off before, and the noise is still there. I then put it in gear just to see if I could hear it, but I can't rev it while it's in gear, and I can't really move while I'm in the garage. So I'm going to drop the bonnet and just move it back onto the driveway and see if I can hear it there. Right, the next stage in trying to locate this whining noise, what I'm going to do is detach the flex plate. So I'm going to pull the two apart so I can isolate whether the whining's from the engine or from the torque tube, which is kind of where I'm leaning towards at the moment. I couldn't hear it making the whining in gear, but I can't tell whether that's just because the revs are lower or because things are all a bit tighter, you know, be under strain. So I think that's a good plan. Get it undone, run the engine, see what it sounds like, and then at least we've isolated which direction it's coming from. Right, it seems that was just a bad idea. I got all the flex plate undone, and then trying to pull the starter motor ring out the way, it just won't come, it jams against the bell housing. So I put it all back together, torqued it all back up, put the starter motor and the lower bell housing back on, and that's where we are now. So I don't know how to get those apart and be able to start the engine. Obviously I can take it apart. When I come to do the torque tube and the transmission stuff, I'll take it all out. Obviously the exhaust is going to have to come out the way then, but I'm planning on doing the exhaust soon anyway, so that's no big deal. But as for my genius idea of sort of separating the two and starting the engine and just seeing if the whining noise is gone, that's out the window. I don't relish the thought, but I think the only way I'm going to track this whining down, which is coming from here somewhere, is to strip it all out. And my fear, my sort of suspicion, and a couple of you guys have sort of mentioned it, is something to do with the cam belt. This is a non-interference engine, so sure, if it snaps, not the end of the world. But I would like to get it right, and I really don't like that whining noise. So I've taken one of the cam covers off, which comes off without any problem. The other one I've undone, but it can't come off because of all the hoses. So I'm going to do the annoying thing of drain some of the coolant out. That'll allow me to take off this hose and this one, which I think, yeah, there's water in it because I can hear it making noise. Take those off, and then I can probably take this fan out the way. So I'll take this housing out, and then I think we can start taking off the cam covers and a few more of the covers there, and we can actually get to the cam belt and just check tension. So that's today's job. Let's get on with it. So here's the engine coming up to temperature. still hear the whining, and I feel like it's in this region here. So behind there's the oil pump and the water pump, which I think are probably the next things to come out. Right, this whining noise is slowly driving me mad. It's not the... trying to think what I've done to date that you've been seeing. So it's not the cam belt being too tight, I've assured that. I've used this stethoscope, I think it's like an automotive stethoscope, to listen around the engine. All the cams and everything seem fine, but it's when I press it on the housing, so the plastic guard that's in front of the oil pump, it's pretty loud. So my current suspicion is that the cam belt is actually rubbing on that housing, on this plastic cover. So what I'm going to do now is try and strip away, ultimately I want to try and get that housing off and have a look at it. And when I look at the cam belt on one side, it does look like it's been rubbing on something. So this is my theory. I need to strip off, there's a few pipes and belts and things to get out of the way. And then we'll see if we can get it out and actually look at it. And I'm hoping that on the inside of that housing we can see where it's rubbing. We'll start the engine with it off and hopefully with air. Right, you should be able to see that the cam belt on this near side, so this edge here, has got sort of some wear on it. Let's move you around, you should be able to see that. And where we're looking at is, if I put my, let's just move the light for you. So if I put my stethoscope on the back end of that piece there, it makes a racket. So it sounds like it's rubbing just here somewhere. And on the other side of there is the oil pump. It's just to get at that, I need to strip off a few belts and pipes. I've been digging deeper and deeper inside the engine, and obviously I'm trying to get this cover off here. And then I remind myself that my original cover's cracked. There's a crack down there. And then I suddenly realised what the problem probably is. So this is in two halves. It should, if I just zoom you out a little bit, it should come all the way around like this. This plastic cover. So mine's cracked in two parts. It's got one part behind here and then one part here. The bit that's rubbing is approximately where my finger's pointing there. And it's probably because this casing's cracked that it's sort of sagging in and touching the cam belt. And I've sort of pulled it apart and had a look down the back and you can see where it's rubbing. So I think that's probably what my issue is. Now I think I've got a spare one of these covers. So what I'm going to do is have a little root around, see if I can find it. If I do, then I need to strip off obviously the crank pulleys, the harmonic balancer, the oil filler, which probably that may mean I need to drain the engine because the oil is sort of up here a little bit. And then obviously I need to take the power steering and the alternator off, which is just here. I can probably then swap it over and put it all back together. So I'm going to have a look now and see if I can find that that spare piece. So this is my sort of the central cover that goes across the front of the engine. Obviously the crank goes in here, oil pump's here somewhere and whatever's over there. Now if we zoom in to where I was hearing the noise, you can see here it's gouged out and it's been wearing away for a while here. So clearly the oil pump is touching it. Now if we zoom over to the engine, let's try and get you in there so you can see. We've got the oil pump, the oil pump's here. Now that has slid forwards, and I'm pretty sure I'd have to look it up, but it doesn't have a nut on the end of it anymore. So it looks to me like the nut has dropped off, and this is loose. This is slowly working its way off, which makes sense. That's why I'm hearing it sort of getting worse and worse. So I need to resolve what to do with that. I'm going to go look it up in the book now and see what it should have there. But in fact, look at that. I've not actually touched it, but smoking gun, there's the nut that fell off the end. So at least we know what it is and why it is. I now need to work out how to fix it. So it's going to tap the pulley back in. I've just put the nut on loosely there just to check I've got everything right. I've got a split washer, well I've got the normal washer, a split washer there, and then the nut. What I'm going to do is put a little bit of Loctite in there. If I can quickly do that. off camera. It's blue Loctite. I don't know if you can see. Oh, where can I get it so you can see? There we go. So I'm just putting a little bit on the threads there, like that. Drop a little bit on the floor. I'm going to wind it on by hand. There we go. That should be done. Now, let's shine the light around and just have a good look at it. So I'm going to quickly check the belt tension just to make sure we're in the right zone. That's easy with the dipstick out, isn't it? Let's have a look. So I was doing that bit of the belt there. I can get on it. Come on. Okay, so we lift it up till it touches the. Oh, it's in the. It's about 3/4 of the way through the little window on the gauge. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to loosen it anymore. I can feel what that's like. Non-interference engine, not the end of the world if it isn't right, but I don't want to go any further than that. Right, there's a bit of a battle, but I think I'm finally there. So to recap, oil pump bolt dropped off because I didn't torque it up. Note to self. I've put it all on there, Loctite. I've done everything up. Apart from I've left quite a lot of the covers off because I want to have a look. But I think I'm at the point now, I've checked the oil's fine, oil level's fine. I've topped up with coolant, so that's fine because a lot of coolant came out across that. None of the auxiliary belts are on, nothing like that. I've still got the big clutched fan, that's still off. But I'm going to turn it over and just check that it runs before we start putting all the last few bits on. So keep your eyes peeled. Okay, everything's back on. I put all the auxiliary stuff back on, all the air tubes and everything's there. We're going to start her up. I turned it over just a minute ago to make sure I had it right, and one of the belts is squeaking, so mine need to tighten up a little bit. But let's do the run, let's give it the 5 minutes, and I'll cut it up so you can hear the change across the period, and make sure there's no whining noises again, and then I might take it out for a drive. It's been quite a journey this week. So pleased to get that done. I think I say that nearly every week, but that was a really worrying one for me. That, I don't know, over the last probably month, 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, I've been hearing this whining noise and it's got louder, louder, louder. And I've been sort of very subtly asking people, you know, is this whine sound okay to you? What do you think? And, you know, thank you for all those people that I've lent on and you've replied to me. And it's sort of steered me along this path to what obviously ended with me taking the whole front of the engine out and front covers and auxiliary stuff. and finding that nut undone on the oil pump. So really relieved to get that. Thank you for all those that steered me in that direction. And we're back on the road again. I think we're back there. I've just been running up for about 10 minutes now. All sounds good. Very happy with that. The temperature and the speedo don't work. Still, it's the connector. I can feel it. I'm just wobbling it a bit and all the lights come on and things. And now if I tap the brake light, one of the brake lights goes off on the dash. So I know it's a connection thing. That cluster is going to come out soon, and I'm going to do something special on the back where those ribbon strips are, and try and resolve that sort of once and for all. Maybe it'll be useful for other people. We'll see what I get up to with that. But anyway, let's wrap up this video. Thank you as ever for watching. Click the old like button, the subscribe button, leave me some comments. And it was quite tappety this time round. And I didn't know whether that's because I've drained a lot of oil out of it in the course of what I've just been doing. At the end it was all quite smooth again, so I'm going to say that's what it is, but let's keep an eye on that. I don't know if it's tappets or what, it just was a little bit tap 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 tap. You can hear in the video no doubt. Let me know in the comments if you know what that is. But anyway, until next week, I'll see you then.